Today on the DNVR Pregame Show, Unc is back. Welcome back to my guy. We got a lot to talk about, a lot to catch up on, tons of staff moves, and much, much more. Let's go. Squad. We're reunited with Unc. We're only down one guy, RK. Maybe one day the quad pod will be completely reunited. Coming to you live from the Toyota Lounge, driven by your front range Toyota stores. Toyota, the official vehicle of DNVR. It's the DNVR Pregame Show. Uncle Neely, what's up, bro?
Unc, what's popping?
Man, what is going on, fam? Good to see you, brothers. Y'all doing good?
Can't call it. Can't call it. Good to see you.
I want to, on behalf of the black delegation, I want to apologize to Jake. There's been some misinformation out there. There's been erroneous reports that Kendrick Lamar did not have a white guy out there dancing. And I know Jake when I see him. Jake was on the back row in the red jumpsuit. Great job, Jake. At the halftime.
I saw him too. I ain't gonna lie.
Thank you.
Way to kill that, bro.
Thank you, man. It was hard keeping it under wraps from y'all, from the chat especially, because I know we have a lot of detectives out here in this fan base who like to, try and find every detail and information. That was a tough one, but I tried to put on for y'all,
My boy a lot more talented. He got way more talent than people think, man. He not just up here, talking in the mic, for a living. He really got other talents that people might know of. Now the world knows, though.
Yeah. I challenge y'all to go back to the replay and play Rails Waldo, but find Jake.
Yep.
And I'll let you know if you're right.
Don't put the spotlight too bright. I might be getting calls for other jobs like that.
That's just a start for you in the showbiz, bro.
Exactly, man. I mean,
hey, welcome to the Prime Effect.
Thank you. Broadway, I'll see you soon.
Hell no.
All right, Unc. We got a lot to catch up on with you, man. We got a new running backs coach, Marshall Faulk's in the fold. I'll ask you about Andre Gurode and Gunnar White coming in to coach the offensive line. Coach Liv got an extension. And then replacing Damian Lewis, some stuff about Jordan Seat in the 2025 schedule. But let's start with Marshall Faulk. How did this come to happen? How did Marshall Faulk become the third Gold Jacket to join Coach Prime's staff? They obviously go back, their time at NFL Network. They played together in the league, not on the same team, but at the same time. So the relationship runs deep. But how did this happen?
Yeah, it's just that genuine chemistry and relationship between them. The time that they spent at the NFL, Prime was there, about 14 years. So he and Marshall Faulk, know each other with a good amount of depth from working together daily during the Hall of Famers. Both excelled at what they do. And I think sometimes we forget to imagine what phone numbers are actually in Deion Sanders' phone. And not only what numbers are in his phone, they have him stored as well, and they pick up on the first or second ring. And so when Coach Prime was looking for a running back coach to come in after Coach Flea's departure, he went straight to the top to another Gold Jacket. And to have Marshall Faulk on this staff, to have a now third Golden Jacket on a college football team when no other team in America has one, what does that do for the young men, student athletes in that running back room? What does it do for the rest of the team, particularly the offensive side of the ball? And what does it do for recruiting in the future? If you're going to go somewhere and want to play for the best, be taught by the best, and have a greater chance of being propelled to the NFL, the next level, what better place in Colorado now where you have a gold jacket head coach, a gold jacket on defense, and a gold jacket on offense.
Yeah, Unc, I think that's well said for sure. I'm curious too, just your thoughts on how he can affect other guys that maybe aren't in that running back room. Like I think of a Draylon Miller, like I think of a Cam Michael, who is probably the fastest guy on the team. Maybe even a Quentin Gibson who has electric speed in the open field. Like, what impact do you think he can have just on maybe guys outside of that running back room as well here in 2025 and beyond?
I think that's first excellent question, because I think it's going to ripple past the running back room.
Yeah.
I think it's going to even ripple with the coaches. Just think about the impact that it has working with a Pat Shurmur, who has been there, done it with the NFL level, and Marshall has been there, done it with college and the NFL level. And who better to come up with schemes and knowing how to get the backs in the best position to help the offense, whether that's chipping on a block scheme, rolling out for a pass, or just a run straight up the A gap. You're bringing in another level of expertise that you haven't had before, another level of experience. The players, when he talks to them, they're going to know that this guy knows what he's talking about, because he knows what it looks like.
Right.
When he came for a visit a couple of months ago, and he was just standing at practice, and you could tell just the wheels were turning in his head as he was evaluating things and seeing things that he liked, seeing things that he may, suggest or change. And of course, he was just visiting practice then. This was not necessarily in the works, to the degree that he was guaranteed coming on board. And I think it's much like when a Terrell Owens comes or a Michael Irvin comes. They don't just talk to the position group that they play. When they're in the cafeteria, they're talking to everybody. And the impact that it has on everybody, whether you're on the staff, the support staff, whether you're in the cafeteria, whether you're in the position group that they play, guys remember those conversations. Think about the impact that Warren Sapp had like 2 years ago in his first visit, and it culminated with him coaching.
Yep.
And he was just as motivated by the players as they were by him.
Love it. Unc, obviously Coach Prime, the head coach, Pat Shurmur's the OC. Can you help explain, at Colorado, how much impact does the running backs coach have over the run game? Actually in game, like the calls, the scheme that they're running, how much impact will Marshall Faulk actually have when we watch games this weekend in terms of what we see on the field?
Well, I would just have to chalk it up to what I've seen the past seasons, past season under Coach Pat Shurmur, and the past seasons when he was assisting Lewis at offense coordinator those last couple of games. When you're in the offensive staff meetings, it is certainly participatory. Everyone around the table chimes in on what they think will work, not only in a scenario or design play standpoint, but just the overall direction of the offense. And I think that, relationships matter. And so Pat Shurmur having a great deal of respect, for Marshall Faulk is going to be listening, is going to be implementing his ideas. I do think at the end of the day and the beginning of the day, Pat Shurmur is the offensive coordinator. He's in charge of the offense. He's in charge of the offensive staff. It's going to be his offense. But when you sit in his rooms and you see the interaction that he has with his offensive staff, it is certainly participation is encouraged, ideas are accepted. And so I imagine Marshall Faulk is going to have a huge say in not just the direction of the run game and how the run game can support the overall offense, but just the offense in general. This is a guy who played, with the greatest show on turf, man. He knows how to score and score fast and score repeatedly all game long. And that's something that we were failing at last year and the year before, frankly. We didn't get off to great starts. You had two of the most phenomenal players in college football on the offensive side of the ball, in Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders, but you never really got the first quarter going. I think Marshall Faulk is going to be able to aid in that, and I think Pat Shurmur is going to have an open ear to it.
Hell yeah. Obviously, there's been another coach added here recently, Andre Gurode, another NFL great, played for the Cowboys, played for my Bears as well. And we'll get into him a little bit more, and Gunnar White as well, who seems to be the head man in that offensive line room. But just with these moves, talking about Marshall Faulk and adding Andre Gurode to this offensive line staff, how much do you think this signals kind of maybe a shift in kind of philosophy that in 2025 and beyond, this team wants to be a team that can run the football and will run the football, successfully and consistently? How much do you think those kind of two moves kind of play into that kind of philosophy change potentially here in the run game?
I think it ain't coincidence. Here's what you're going to have this fall, no matter who it is. You're going to have a new quarterback. It won't be Shedeur Sanders. You're not going to have, one of the greatest college quarterbacks, the greatest college quarterback as it relates to completion percentage in the history of football. You're not going to have him commanding the offense. You're going to either have a true freshman or an experienced guy, who came over from Liberty. Either way, there are going to have to be other components of the offense that you're going to have to lean on that you didn't lean on before when you had a Shedeur and Travis, such as a stronger run game and including tight end play as well. And so I think what you're going to see when you're bringing on an Andre Gurode and moving up a Gunnar White, and don't forget you got George Heckman there, is there's going to be emphasis on run blocking, that we have to push this line of scrimmage forward. We have to open up holes for our backs because we're going to have to be able to run the ball, because we can't sit back and just rely on Shedeur and Travis to get us out of trouble or get us downfield fast. I think you're going to see a more diverse offense this fall, and that's going to be predicated on the ability to run the ball. But again, I say don't forget the impact that tight end is going to have on this new offense.
Facts.
We'll ask you about Gunnar White here in a bit, but with these new coaches coming in the running back room and the offensive line room in particular, I think a lot of fans, they automatically look to what happened last year when coaching changes happened, and they saw players leave and enter the portal and kind of redoing the room, especially the running back room last year. I mean, even though Coach Flea was still there from 23, it was a remade running back room. How much turnover do you think we'll see at those positions when the portal opens here in about a couple months?
I think you're going to see some, because I think it's a natural byproduct of college football. As coaches evaluate who they have over those 15 practices, the 15th being the spring game, there's going to be conversations and communication about what fits and what doesn't and what's in the best interest of the student athlete. So I think you're going to have some people depart this team. But I also think, just as when Coach Prime arrived, and now that he has some Louis luggage coaching staff, if I can put it that way, you're going to have to rise to the occasion, and they stick with it, and they learn, and they develop, and they grow, and they have a major impact this fall. But I think you're going to have departures, whether it's from the D-line room or from the running back room or even the receiver room. But I also think this, fellas, that door swings both ways.
Yes,
when we get to the end of spring ball, you're going to have some people who are going to decide that Colorado is not a good fit for them, but you're going to also have some impact players who decide, I need to be at Colorado, because you didn't have a Marshall Faulk on staff when the first portal was open. So that's changing people's thinking. You didn't have an Andre Gurode on staff when this portal first opened. So I imagine there's going to be some attrition both ways. But at the end of the day, Coach Prime knows how to make the team a better one than it was before spring ball started. I expect that to happen again.
Chief, we got to hit a break, or we good?
No, you can ask one more question real quick if you want.
Unc, I want to talk a little bit about Gunnar White, who is, correct me if I'm wrong, it seems like that's his room. That's his offensive line room now. Obviously working alongside Andre Gurode and still continuing to work alongside George Heckman. What do you just make of his promotion and, his role being very important, obviously getting the most out of this offensive line room, like you mentioned, open up running lanes and getting this team, this offense, a consistent running game. What do you make of his promotion and the job that he'll do here in 2025 and beyond?
It's just another example of underscoring how much relationship and trust matters in Coach Prime and his organizations. Gunnar White came to Jackson State volunteering, became a grad assistant, joined Colorado staff, has worked under 2 offensive line coaches there, has been very integral in the recruiting process of the offensive line players. A lot of times coaches have this good cop, bad cop thing going between the coaches in the room. He's been there and done there every step of the way. He knows how to coach offensive line all the way back to Belhaven College when he was with Hal Munn. He's been on the West Coast and, the New Mexicos and Nevadas. He's been at Colorado. He's been with Coach Prime since Coach Prime has been a college coach. So when you talk about a 4-year job interview, I got as much trust in Gunnar White as Coach Prime does to get this job done, because he's been doing it all along. When you look at Rob Livingston when he was brought in, and Coach Prime kind of warned everybody, stop looking at people's titles and look at what they were actually doing in their job. And Gunnar White has been an offensive line coach for Coach Prime for 4 years now. He's now just getting that official title. I know people are out there like, oh, he's not a big name. I didn't know who he was. And, I don't know about his age. I think all those things work to his advantage because he's able to communicate to these younger guys. They trust him. You look at a Tyler Brown who's been with him since he got to Jackson State.
Right.
Now Seaton has been with him a season. Phillip Houston, who's coming back from that injury, has been with him a season. So Gunnar White has the trust of that room. He has the ability to coach. And being a black belt in Taekwondo, he knows how to kick ass.
Facts.
I love it. I want to ask more about Gunnar White, but I'll do that on the other side of this break. Shout out to Factor Meal Kits, man. We've been busy lately.
Yeah.
At least, I mean, me, I've been traveling all over the place.
Yes,
it
you
feels
have.
like.
Hollywood Jake.
But when we're on the road, shout out to Factor for helping us out. Actually, Alyssa's the biggest fan of Factor on the road. She's always bringing those Factor meal kits because, one, they're delicious. Two, they're super easy to heat up and get a quick meal on the road as well. They're all pre-made. They're all pre-portioned. All you got to do, pop them in the microwave. They are delicious, though. The pasta ones are ones that stand out to me. I love a lot of the chicken ones as well. So hit up our friends over at Factor. They got juices. They got all kinds of stuff for you there. Head on over to factormeals.com/DNVRbuffs 50 off. That's code DNVRbuffs 50 off to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. That's code DNVRbuffs 50 off at factormeals.com/DNVRbuffs 50 off to get 50% off plus 20% off your next month. Shout out Factor.
And shout out to the squad over at Coors Light,
sir.
man. It's been really cold the last couple of days, but I think we got some relief in terms of the temperature, in terms of the weather coming to Denver this week.
Today's another, like, we had this happen a few weeks ago where it was like 7 degrees.
Yes.
And then it's like 29 today, and it's like, it's summer.
Feels amazing.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And that uptick in temperature and increased good weather is reason for celebrate. Reason
Facts.
to celebrate. And I can't think of, honestly, a better way to celebrate than when a good old ice cold Coors Light, man. Choose chill this winter and then go ahead and reach for a Coors Light. Get Coors Light delivered straight to your door. Visit CoorsLight.com/DNVR, or you can find it pretty much anywhere that sells beer. Make sure you celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. Shout out Coors Light.
We're in prime Coors Light season right now. We're kind of in deep off-season mode. Does this thing keep falling? What are you looking at?
Pointing at the Coors Light bucket, bro.
I thought you were pointing at the sign and tip it over again. But yeah, get in on the Coors Light action. It's time. All right, Gunnar White. One thing I've noticed is when the coaches are on the road and all these recruits are like tweeting out their offers and stuff, a lot of time these offensive linemen are with Gunnar White. They tag Gunnar White. And what you mentioned, he is a younger guy. It just seems like he's someone who recruits really well because he can relate. He's always been really awesome to us when we see him around the building. He's one of those guys we just happen to run into more often than not, way more often than other people when we're out there at Boulder. But he just seems like he's fit for the role. And as you mentioned, he's put in the time to get to this point under Coach Prime.
He certainly has, man. And I'll tell you what we're going to do in partnership that we have, the DNVR Pregame Show. We're going to get Gunnar White on. Let me give him a text, and let's bring him on next week so that people can hear direct from him. He's a sincere guy, hardworking guy, doesn't look for the credit and pats on the back, and he understands that even about the offensive line, that it's not a credit position. Like, you're going to get blamed when it goes wrong, and no one's going to give you a pat on the back when it goes right. Somebody else got it done, not you. And so you got to have a certain mentality to not only play that position, but to also coach it and recruit from it. And the reason you see those recruits tagging him, not just this year, but in years past, is that he's the tip of the spear when it comes down to talking to them, talking to their parents, and getting them in the building, in their recruiting lounge for Coach Prime to talk to. You stir all that together, man, and name it a 4-year job interview. I'm telling y'all, you can trust Gunnar White because you can trust Deion Sanders, Coach Prime. And this is a position that he knows Gunnar is ready for. And then what does it say about your football organization, that you can promote from within? It not only helps you retain younger staff, but it helps you attract younger staff because they know they have a future there, and you don't have to move out just to move up.
Yeah, Unc, I think Gunnar's youth is such an asset. You talked about it, just relatability to the kids, and the fact that he's a Jackson State alum too. Like, he can relate. He can relate to that room for sure. One of the most genius things.
He's the Jake dancing with Kendrick Lamar.
For real.
Got a little brother in him, is what I'm saying. He's got some brother in him.
Hey, one of the most genius things I think, and we talked about this a little bit last week, that I think Coach Prime has done, that I think is pretty uncommon across college football, and we see it here with this offensive line. We've seen it with the defensive line as well, and having multiple coaches for these rooms. And a lot of people are like, there's too many, cooks in the kitchen. There's too many voices. And I see it as inevitably when a coach leaves, there can be guys in that position where we're like, damn, my guy's gone. When the D-Lou leaves, that's not the case here because they still got a gold jacket and Warren Sapp that they're very familiar with. They still got a George Helow they're familiar with. Same with the offensive line. When Lodeholt leaves, there's still a Gunnar White who guys have a real relationship with. There's still a George Hageman who guys have a real relationship with. Can you just talk about how important you think it is to have multiple guys, especially at a position where there's multiple guys starting on the field? It's different to have – you wouldn't have multiple quarterback coaches because, there's 4 or 5 guys in the room. You only got to get one guy ready. But when you got to get 5 across an offensive defensive line ready, it really behooves you, I feel like, to have multiple guys in that room who guys can trust. Do you agree with that? What are your thoughts on that?
I absolutely agree with it. And just when I thought the framing of that question could get no better, you ended it with behoove. And so it just went through the roof. Like you went deep down into Scotty deep pockets and you grabbed all of it, my brother, and laid it out perfectly. Because I think
Appreciate
you're exactly right. Man, you got bad days in life. Like somebody's going to get sick. Somebody's got to go home and take care of mama because she's not feeling well. And the way Coach Prime's staff is created, he tells his coaching staff in the first meeting every year and throughout the year, I want your players to want to play for you more than they want to play for me. I'm the head coach. I'm going to get mine. I'm going to be in these recruiting meetings. I'm going to get the deal done. But as the season goes on and camps goes on and practice goes on, they need to have exceptional relationships with you, not just me. They may have been attracted to Colorado because I'm the head coach, but I want them to sign with Colorado because they love their position coach. So he encourages and fosters those relationships, to be built. And so when you have a Lodeholt leave and a Gunnar still there, you don't see any major turnover in the room, because they know Gunnar White can coach. They know who's been coaching them. They know that they're still on the upswing and that the head coach, Deion Sanders, is still ultimately calling the shot. So I think all of that just lays out perfectly to the ability for this staff to keep rolling. But here's another thing that it adds to. There's 2 components to this thing, Scotty. One, you got to be able to coach, but coaching means nothing if you can't connect.
Facts.
And just like you talked about, if you got one guy trying to coach 5 people and then he's got another 5 behind him, that's 10 people. You add in a George Hageman or Andre Gurode, now, man, we can reach everybody. Exactly. We can connect with everybody because everybody don't think Neely funny. Everybody don't get my joke. Everybody don't like me. And so if I'm the coach of this situation and I don't have a Scotty Deep Pockets with me, I could lose somebody in the room. So the way Coach Prime structures his organization, there's going to always be somebody close to somebody. Thanks. And let's keep guys focused. Let's keep them motivated. Let's keep the carrot on the stick. Let's win this damn Big 12 championship. And that starts with having a staff that not just can coach, but a staff that can connect. So I think you laid that out perfectly, bro.
So did you. Well said, Unc.
Unc, we talked about this right after the Alamo Bowl, too, when we had you on, because this was right when Lodeholt and Dancy left. And, people were kind of, I wouldn't say freaking out, but there was a level of concern that, Colorado keeps on losing these coaches. They keep on leaving, going elsewhere. And I made the point then, that's the sign of a healthy program. When other teams want your coaches, that means that you're doing something right. But then the point that you just made, too, when Coach Prime is able to promote from within and fill those gaps that guys leave when they go elsewhere, that also is a sign of a healthy program because it means you're not only developing players, but you're developing coaches, you're developing that trust, those relationships that you were talking about. Because the reason I bring this up is because a lot of people, when they saw Gunnar White was, being promoted, there was some concern. Was he ready for the job? Who is this guy? We're hiring an assistant, and the guy is only 26 or whatever he is. I just think that that's not the case when you actually look at the nuts and bolts, where these guys are coming from and why this is all happening.
Yeah, I'm going to start with that last part first. We have to consider time frames and consider chronological order and consider what the rules were at the time. The reason you don't know a Gunnar White well compared to the rest of the staff is there was once an NCAA rule since the time we've been in Colorado that graduate assistants couldn't be on camera. They couldn't be, directly coaching players. They couldn't have, profiles and interviews done on them. They had to just be back of shop operations. So a lot of the things that a Gunnar White performed or even a Rashad in the wide receiver room performs, you don't get to see it, but trust and believe they would not be there if they weren't performing. And the other dynamic to this thing is, unless your woman has her phone on airplane mode and just fooling you, if she ain't getting no text from somebody else, you might want to find you somebody else. Because if what you got don't nobody else want, you ain't got a damn thing. And Coach Prime has built a staff that is attractive, it's performance based, it's going to get the attention of other people, and other people are going to reach out to them to make offers. And sometimes those offers just fit. Whereas you had, I'll say this, just on the record, whereas you had a Rob Livingston turn down offers to stay at Colorado and end up getting an extension. Who can be mad at D. Lou for wanting to go home? Like he's going back to coach at Miami, where he got drafted from. And we were just joking here, about the weather swings in Colorado. He ain't worried about that where he's going back to. So it just fits. But here's what's going to fit even more. Wait till you see the replacement. Like the thing keeps moving up. It doesn't stagnate or status quo. It keeps getting better. And I know we're going to get into it later, but now you're getting into hires where before a Rob Livingston kind of inherited his room. It was already there. Now he and Coach Prime are putting their Rolodexes, their phones, their contact list, along with the Warren Sapps together. Think of the names that are in all three of those phones that they can reach out to and get to come coach in Colorado. I don't think it's time to hit the panic button because you have been successful in hiring quality people, and those quality people from time to time move on. I'm blown away with the fact that when you take away that COVID season at Jackson State and you just go with the 4 regular season Coach Prime as coach, he's already produced 4 head coaches in his coaching tree. Who would not want to come work for him?
Facts.
Well said.
Well said. And I think Adam Gorney at Rivals recently was talking about that Colorado might have one of the best, if not, the best coaching staffs in college football. I think he called it the best. Yeah, and he was getting cooked for it, but it's like, just look at the staff. Yeah. Like, who else has 3 Hall of Famers? And like, I think Coach Prime has gotten people expect him to be able to recruit well, and particularly, on the perimeter receiver DBs. But I don't think a lot of people expected him to put together an elite coaching staff, and that's exactly what he's done in Colorado. And you kind of alluded to it. I want to get into it though here, if we can. Obviously, what's up?
I was going to say, it behooves us to get into it, because I think that's where we're failing in assigning the proper credit or the doubt that's creeping in people's mind. Once upon a time, Deion Sanders couldn't coach. We didn't know if he can coach. Well, that's been proven. But along that path, I think what people are failing to also grasp, and that he can coach, is damn, he can hire.
Yes.
Man, he can make some wise decisions on his staff. You look at his staff and where is he missed? Where is he? Where it always works out, gets better, and then other people find him attractive. And here's what's more important about the staff. When you just look across the board, he's been the one more times than not to give people their true first opportunity.
Hell yeah.
He's got a staff that has a lot of former head coaches here and there, but when you look at a Gunnar White coming as a volunteer, you look at a Warren Sapp and a Marshall Faulk, you look at a D. Lou, like, he's been the guy that said, you know what, I think you got what it takes. Then everybody sees that guy has what it takes, and now they start calling him up and saying, hey, you come here. And it's the same thing that really happened for Coach Prime. I'm not trying to take away any risk, credit, evaluation, getting it right that Rick George did in hiring Coach Prime, but it was damn sure easy to do it after Ashley Robinson at Jackson State took the big risk, because he hired the unknown thing.
Right.
He hired what no one had seen before coaching wise, and when Coach Prime proved he could do it to the world, then the world started ringing. And that's just how it works in coaching, and there's nothing wrong with that. So you're going to see people from the 2025 staff get elevated somewhere else 2026. You're going to see people from the 2025 staff get elevated within. No one was hitting the panic button when year after year Nick Saban is in the championship or in the finals, and every damn year, every other year, looking for a new coordinator, new position
OC, new DC.
People wanted his people.
100%. I mean, I just think about too. 99% of the college football world had no idea that Phil Lodeholt was coaching college football before he came over to Colorado, and now he coaching in the SEC. 99% of the football world had no idea who a Robert Livingston was, and now he's definitely one of the best coordinators in college football. Let's talk a little bit about, obviously, D-Lou heading back home to Miami. I know you had Warren Sapp yesterday on Wednesdays with Warren. That was fire per usual. Just talking with Coach Sapp, do you get the gist, the vibe from him that he expects somebody else to be brought into this defensive line room? What are your thoughts on that? Obviously, we know he's capable of doing it himself potentially, but what are your thoughts? Do you think there's going to be an additional coach added to his defensive line room alongside Coach Sapp here soon?
Absolutely, and you can tell Alyssa to put this as breaking news across the screen, but I've heard that from Coach Prime himself. There will be somebody else, joining, and there will be an announcement, pretty damn soon in that regard. And Coach Sapp will tell you that he is the icing. He's what goes on top of the dish. And if you watch Wednesday with Warren, I attribute it to a loaded baked potato. Someone else is going to be the baked potato, but he's that load on top of it. That's that sour cream, chives, and cheese and bacon. And he just takes the dish to another level. Coach Sapp recognizes that about himself. I know a lot of people, in the Twitterverse have been saying, oh, Sapp needs to move up. Sapp needs to be Sapp room. Sapp is happy doing what Sapp is doing. He does want to make some changes to some of the drills that we focused on or some of the ones we didn't focus on. Yeah. But in his mind, the terminology, the work ethic, what we're going to be doing is not going to change much because you still got Rob Livingston, you still got Warren Sapp, you still got George Helow, you still got Coach Prime. So this defense that went from a bunch of unknowns to number one in the conference is going to be rebuilt, retooled when the next guy comes in to still be the number one defense in the conference.
Oh, yeah.
I love it. We'll dig into that more on the other side of this break. Shout out to the homies over at Toyota. Most reliable cars on the road.
Easily.
You probably needed one if you're out here in Colorado when the snow hit. Another surprise snowstorm, at least according to the Apple weather app. Worst app of all time. Unreliable. Unlike Toyota, who is completely reliable. You know exactly what you're going to get. Versatile. Head up into the mountains out here in Colorado, or if you're just driving around the city, no safer vehicle out there. Visit your Front Range Toyota stores at a location near you, and Uncle Neely's on the show, so you better know where the Front Range is at this point.
Get better.
Auto Nation Toyota, Arapahoe and Centennial, Corwin Toyota in Boulder, Groove Toyota in Littleton, Mountain States Toyota in Denver, Stevenson Toyota, Eastern Aurora, Stevenson Toyota West, and Lakewood Toyota is a proud partner of CU Athletics and the official vehicle of DNVR. Let's go places.
Hey, man, Valentine's Day is tomorrow, y'all.
Let them know.
Y'all still looking for a gift? Can't think of nothing better than getting your significant other a personal branded ice shaker, man. Shout out to the squad over at Ice Shaker. You can order your team branded bottles today at iceshaker.com and use the code ALLCITY25 for 25% off your order. Again, you can get one personalized. You want to celebrate the Eagles championship. You a hometown Broncos Nuggets fan or something like that. Even if you got a homie, a significant other, maybe you got a birthday coming up, or you just want to do something nice. An Ice Shaker would do the trick. I can guarantee you that they would be more than appreciative. Ice Shakers, you can show your support for your teams with the best branded workout bottles on the market. Ice Shakers.
Hell yeah. Unc, you mentioned, Sapp is perfectly content with his role right now and someone else is going to come in. But let's not forget, you mentioned him, George Helow is on this staff. We had him a lot on the pregame show before the year, this last season. And, he's a student of the game. I think that's the way I would describe him, coming up under Nick Saban. He's been on championship teams. And, a lot of the talk this year was about D-Lou and Sapp, of course, because they were coaching the D-line. But Coach Dancy, those edge rushers did a great job. Don't ignore that edge rushing coach who's coming in and working in conjunction with those two guys. And George Helow, you mentioned when he's just going crazy on the whiteboard at halftime, like this guy lives, eats, and breathes football.
Yeah, man, you said it. I don't know if there is a individual coach on the staff that I've been more impressed with than George Helow. His not only knowledge of the game, his ability to explain the game, his ability to explain the why component of it. Like, here's why I need you to do this. Here's why it impacts the rest of the play if you doesn't. His ability to connect with the players in that coaching style. And he has a fourth component, his ability to motivate. I tell him to his face, he is like if Joe Pesci and Wolverine had a baby. He that's how he looks.
Hey,
That's
that's
how he
elite.
motivates. You
Facts.
know, he is Goodfellas and Weapon X put all together, man.
Yes, Goodfellas is a
And I
classic.
love the way he motivates and the way he teaches. And I love, again, his style of explaining why we're doing this. And that's why you see success in that defense. Particularly, here's what I want to say now. This is not taking anything away from a Rob Livingston or Deion Sanders because, hell, they're the ones who made the decision to bring in a Helow. When you look at the stats, Scotty Pockets, which I know you and Jake do, and you look at what happens in Colorado football third and fourth quarter, it is a direct result of that whiteboard and George Helow at halftime. And he is still on this staff. And now, particularly coaching a room on top of his responsibilities as defensive adjustments at half, this defense is not dropping off a bit because Dancy and D. Lou left. Wishing them nothing but the best. They left their mark on this program and wishing them success where they're going. But there's no need to flip that acrylic lid and hit that red panic button. This staff is still strong, and the additions, that's with a S, the additions that Coach Prime is about to make and announce, I think people are going to know that this team is headed in an even bigger and better direction than last year.
Eyeball emojis.
That Joe Pesci Wolverine comp, Unk, is just absolutely genius. Hey, you seen the movie My Cousin Vinny, right, Unk?
Yes.
I gotta get this guy Jake to see this. He's never seen it somehow. Hey, you think Pesci was better in My Cousin Vinny or Goodfellas?
Oh wow, he was so he was better in My Cousin Vinny simply because it's a little more like realistic.
True.
As far as what but Joe Pesci in Goodfellas and Joe Pesci in Casino that's a guy you want on your damn side because you don't want to be against him.
Yeah, he was crazy in Goodfellas.
Oh man, like it ain't making any sense. Like you shoot the sandwich guy at the card game.
That scene, the scene where they're sitting there eating and he's asking dude like, "You think I'm funny? You think I'm a joke?"
Yeah,
like that's a classic.
I'm here to amuse you.
Joe Pesci scene. We gonna watch My Cousin Vinny together.
I have FOMO right now.
We gotta throw that on the
sure.
bus next year on the Stampede or something sometime on the trip.
We will.
But just speaking, this defensive line room, Unk, I feel like the receiver room last year was easily kind of the strongest room group, deepest maybe on this team. And I feel like in 2025, Jake and I have talked about it. I feel like it's defensive line. How do you feel about that? I feel like there's so much talent, depth on the interior, especially on the edge as well, and they're going to be coached the hell up. Do you kind of feel the same way about that?
I feel absolutely the same way, and that's why I'm not going to be in shock mode when we get past the spring game and someone from either one of those rooms decides to leave.
Yeah.
Because you have a huge problem. You got a lot of damn talent and a lot of damn depth, and there's only one ball in a certain amount of positions. And it may be coming to pass that someone is better suited to take their talents elsewhere for them to see the field a hell of a lot versus can see the field sporadically. And even in those departures, should they happen, you're still talking about depth that you have never seen at Colorado football. And I'm not just talking about in the prime year. When you talk about this defense, D-line, you talk about this secondary on the defense, and you talk about this wide receiver room. If we just support one of these quarterbacks where they get a little bit of time and they got a run game they can rely on too, this is going to be a damn good football team this year.
No doubt.
I love it. I mean, with all of that, Rob Livingston, you mentioned it, he denied some offers that came through to him, from other teams this offseason. He gets a 2-year extension. Now the highest paid assistant in the history of Colorado football. I mean, we all know what he did last year, but having him back and, all these coaches moves that are happening right now, I mean, I don't know how you can not feel just secure in what's going to happen this season because Robert Livingston's still there and he's going to have another year. These players are going to have another year to learn this system, get acclimated. I fully expect this defense to be on the level that they were last year, partially or mostly because Robert Livingston is back.
Absolutely, Jake. And he's back with his terminology. He's back with returning players. Yeah, you're losing a Shiloh and a Travis and a Cameron Silman Craig. I get all that. But you're retaining a hell of a lot too. Yes. You got a hell of a lot that's coming in. And now you're in a situation where last year everybody was trying to learn something. Now this year, you're going to have players that are going to be able to be coaches on the field because they've been with Coach Rob Livingston a year, and they're going to be able to say to the newer guys, "Hey, this is what this means. This is how we do this." Versus everybody trying to learn it at the same time, and it was kind of a sink or swim mentality. I think that that's going to, force some guys and to emerge as leaders on this defense. And I think that much as we've talked about, whether it is on DNVR or the pregame show or the DNVR pregame show, that when it comes to the aggregation of this team, the totality of the 2025 team, because of all that, even in the absence of once in a lifetime of generational players, I think the team got better this year, and it'll
Yes.
be a better team than it was last year.
Yes.
No doubt. No doubt. And I think a part of that reason is that there are going to be a handful of guys on this roster who break out, who may be guys that outside of the Colorado world maybe not know about, but they will in 2025. And Jake and I did a little exercise yesterday, just maybe drafting some breakout candidates, guys who we can see kind of taking off in 2025. Uncle, I'll kind of pose it to you, maybe one or two guys who you think maybe flying under the radar a little bit from the outside world that you think on either side of the ball could maybe or will take off and maybe break out a little bit here in 2025?
Oh man, in no particular order: Hodge, DJ McKinney, Cam Michael. Omari, O'Miller
Yep.
coming back from that injury, man. Like I just think that this team, here's going to be a tough part with Coach Prime this year, guys. Who's the D and who's the L? Because you got a lot of damn leaders and a lot of damn dogs.
Yep.
Hell yeah.
And I think there has to be, a limit on either category, to some degree. But he's going to be able to draw straws or flip a coin because the talent and the dog mentality and the leadership ability across the board at each unit. I think, man, for me, it would probably be better for me to answer who I'm waiting on for an emergence versus who I already see. Because I
Sure.
think it's secondary receivers, defensive line, offensive line, it's just a matter of time. You know those names. I'm still eager to see what's going to happen with the linebacker room with Coach Hart. Like who's going to emerge there this season,
Me too.
to replace those bigger names that left out of there. So, and I know the talent is there. I know the dog mentality is there, but who is it going to be at least going into spring ball? Like, I don't know that right now.
I mean, that's my biggest takeaway from that exercise we did yesterday, kind of drafting breakout players. We look back at our draft, that's 10 players on the board, and we start going through, guys who we, quote unquote snubbed, and like, damn, this roster is talented, man. The difference in this roster from what it was 2 years ago, even without Shador and Travis, it's eye-opening. I mean, the trenches are, greatly improved. The skill talent on defense and offense is off the charts. Obviously, that's Coach Prime's calling card. But it's just stacking one on top of another on top of another. Like RK did the golf ball analogies last offseason, and it's exactly what's happening. Like as long as Coach Prime is the head coach at Colorado, this roster is just going to continue to get better and better and better.
Yeah, because you're continuing to have what's called proof of concept.
Yes.
It was in my mind, it was proven at Jackson State, but I could kind of understand why the world didn't want to sign off yet, because a lot of people don't know football is football, that the field is the same width and the same length, and that the first down is 10 yards no matter where you're playing. And I'm trying to be kind of assholish when I say that. And so now that he has proven that even at this quote unquote Power 5, now Power 4 level, that now you certainly have proof of concept that he can coach, that he can recruit, that he can hire and retain staff, that he can promote staff, that he can replace staff when they leave. All of these things now are proven. So that only says just more and more to moms and dads and players who are in the 10th, 11th, 12th grade that Colorado is a realistic place that I should be looking at going to play, and it's producing exceptional results. So I have to have my ear to the ground that it may not be this historic blue blood football program that you find in the SEC, but as it relates to the talent of the coaching staff, as it relates to the number of people whose names are going to be called in the draft this year, next year, you'd be crazy if you were, looking at the portal or a high school senior or in JUCO and you're not considering Colorado football, because what's being built there is a firm foundation that ain't going nowhere anytime soon.
Love it. The schedule came out, Unc. I don't know if you have it in front of you, but just a few dates that stood out. I mean, Georgia Tech, of course, the season opener in Boulder, the Big 12 opener at Houston in week 3. We go back to TCU. We get all the teams who, we wish we could have played this last year. BYU, Iowa State. Who am I missing? ASU. Is there another one? Either way, those 3 are all coming to Boulder. You picked them last year. You picked Baylor and UCF as the games to watch out for. And you were, couldn't have been more right. Are there any games that stand out to you early right now for the 2025 schedule?
Absolutely. I didn't include this one last year because, again, proof of concept already existed. But I'm going to circle week 1, Georgia Tech at home for a couple of reasons. It is the first time Coach Prime will be coaching college football, and one of his sons is not playing for him. And I think that with the way the ACC can move the ball, the fact that Georgia Tech, was coming after Prime when he was at Jackson State, and he just as likely could have been a coach there. I think that there's a whole lot of circumstances that make that game more interesting than it would have been if it was week 6 or so. I'm also looking at, what is a budding, respectful rivalry between these 2 head coaches and BYU. We see what happened at the bowl game. My Lord, got to get some payback for that. You got to circle that date. Same thing, when you end the season with a Kansas team.
Yes.
We have got to figure out a way to be successful against those teams out of Kansas. And in between those, man, because we did not get to play Iowa State, and soon they're coming back as powerful as they were last year. But here's another one I'm interested in, fellas, and it's that long road trip to West Virginia.
Yes, sir.
I love about this schedule of those. We don't have back-to-back road games, but that is about as damn far away from Boulder, Colorado as you can be. And they ain't no slouch.
That's going to be a hell of a game, a raucous environment. We were talking to Pac-Man last week. He was giving us potentially some tips on what to do down in Morgantown. We're going to have to link with him when we get down there. But,
I don't know if you want to do that.
Hey, my parents said the same thing. They said, hey, you going to link with him. You know what I mean? Careful. I got Pac-Man going to get us right.
Hey, Jake, you mentioned going back to TCU. I had the pleasure of watching the entire TCU game from the sideline next to Warren Sapp. And we were going to go out that night after the show. And Sapp calls me like 2 a.m. and says, "Are you ready?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not ready." There is nothing in me that's going to make me leave this Airbnb with you at 2 a.m. Like, it ain't happening. I would go out with you at 8 p.m. I would go out you at 8 a.m. But 2 a.m, like, it ain't nothing good gonna come from Neely and Sapp leaving the house at 2 a.m.
That's when the fun start, Unc. What you mean?
I'm just telling you, Scotty. Like, I love Pac-Man. Just say something came up, though. Like,
I got you. I heard.
We ain't ready, is what he's saying.
I hear you.
Just say something.
Do we got any questions?
One more thing. There was some news today. The NFL scouting combine put out the invites for Colorado players. In my opinion, not enough. It's Shador, Travis, LeJohntay, and Jimmy. Will Shepard just went crazy at the Shrine Bowl a few weeks ago. No invite. Shiloh had a great game at the Shrine Bowl. No invite. We already know the type of person and player Cam Silman Craig is. No invite. BJ Green was at the Hula Bowl. Chidozie Nwankwo was at the Hula Bowl. Look, I think these guys will get their chance. We're going to have a big pro day coming up next month. But I can't help but feel like Colorado was snubbed with this list.
Yeah, I feel that way too. But Jake, let me tell you this, man. A quarter got a heads and a quarter got a tails, and it's still 25 cents to spend.
Yeah.
We can't celebrate the prime effect and not recognize the prime tax. There are going to be some things that come your way that wouldn't come your way just because Deion Sanders is that damn dude.
Thanks.
And there's going to be things taken from you that have no fault or liability on you, but just because you're associated with him, they're going to tax you a little bit. And we got some players that should be in Indianapolis, at Lucas Oil, showing their skill set. But they're going to get that opportunity, man, at a more controlled pro day and probably even at a Big 12 joint pro day. So, and that's not counting individual workouts. So the guys that you mentioned, their names, let me tell you about the Cameron Silman Craig. Whoever invites him to camp, you're going to have to dynamite him up out of there. Like, he ain't – like, whoever gets him has him, because he will not quit and he's going to make that team. So you don't have to invite him. You're just going to regret having not invited him.
Yeah, Coach Prime go make sure those guys who weren't invited to the combine get their shine and get their look that they deserve for sure.
Fully believe it.
Yeah, look, I'm going to tell you this. I know the whole world watches the NFL Combine, so I'm not crazy enough to say that Colorado's Pro Day will be bigger than the Combine, but Colorado's Pro Day is going to be damn near just as big as the Combine.
No,
100%.
Facts, man. I mean, straight up. We saw how big it was last year when it was just, we had a pro day for Zay Weaver.
Yeah.
And that was huge. I mean, we had like 12 NFL teams come out just to watch Zay run, basically.
Facts.
Just imagine what's going to happen when Travis and Shador are doing their thing one last time.
And the guys that you mentioned. I mean, it's going to be
absolutely
all teams represented and their top brass. I think there's like a lot of courtesy scheduling stuff taking place right now. Like, hey, man, when is yours? Because we don't want to try to be the same day yours is, because we're not going to be able to compete. And I see Coach Prime doing exactly what he did, at Jackson State when he knew the spotlight was going to be there, is inviting some area folks to participate in ours as well. Because if you try to schedule against us and you're a neighboring state, the whole NFL is going to be at Colorado's Pro Day. Just bring your guys over to ours, man. Like everybody can eat.
For sure. All right, let's get to questions. We got quite a few today. King Mars is asking, when does spring ball practices start? March 11th, correct?
Yep. Practice 1 is March 11th. And then we got every other day. There'll be Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. And then there's a spring break after the first 2 weeks. So you come back after that. And the spring game, practice 15, is that Easter weekend, that Saturday. I think that's April 19th, if I'm not mistaken.
I think you're right, yes.
Less than a month away from the start of spring ball.
Cannot wait. Need it. Cannot wait. Holmes Life and Lending says, I'm excited about the new season and the new coaches. Who will they add to the staff? That's all you want.
I'll tell you this. I have talked to Coach Prime about the defensive name, and talked to him about another name as well. And I think that, I think the world is going to be shocked and surprised and pleased, and are totally going to understand that, wow, I didn't know we could get better, but we just got better.
Music to my ears. What's up, Ivan? Going into year 3 of the Coach Prime era, is O-line the biggest concern once again? Or is QB1 the bigger question heading into year 3? In my opinion, it's O-line. I mean, QB1, you've got 2 talented guys. The only question is who's going to win.
Yeah. No, I agree with you there. I'm sorry, I paused because you nailed it. And I think that going into a year without Shador, it could be either one of those guys and you're going to be solid. And so now the question becomes not only who's going to protect him, which group of 5 do you put together?
Yes.
And that may not actually become clear until August, because you got spring ball, and there's going to be an addition, man. Someone's coming in the portal when their spring game is over, wherever they're located. And when you go through summer 1 and summer 2, strength and conditioning, and come back for fall camp, I'd imagine about that second week of fall camp, you will truly see like, okay, that's the group. That's who's going to play together.
And one thing that will be different going into 2025 and 2024, we know for sure they got one.
Yes.
We know for sure we got one locked down that left side of the offensive line. And even we were all high on Jordan Sean going into last year, but there was some questions.
Sure. I mean, he was a true freshman.
We hadn't seen it before,
a big spot.
but he answered all those questions. So we definitely know we got one for sure. It's just about figuring out the rest of those 4 spots.
I love the panic of the chat in Buff Nation during last year's spring game on the first play.
Yep.
It was like, oh shit. Like, what have we done?
Yep.
And he will tell you that moment helped him become who he became later in the season.
Yep.
Because that was like an, oh wow, college football is for real, and I'm playing against my teammates, and I wasn't ready for that. And he was just vowed that wouldn't happen again, and it didn't.
I'm pretty sure he said throughout this, or at one point in the season, that was his welcome to college football moment. Like somebody asked him, what's your welcome to college football moment? And they expected him to say one of the games. And he was like, it was actually the spring game going against my own teammates for the first time in a live setting.
And the first damn play. It's
yes.
Here we out here, the talking heads that we are, covering the team, thanks to Coach Prime internally. And we have been big up in Jordan Seaton and what a monster sign this was. He signs live on ESPN, and the damn first play of spring game, he's like,
damn.
you couldn't have a better that college football is for real
Yeah.
in that moment.
Facts.
Heaven's Demons asking, is it possible that we get an Aaron Donald or Jared Allen level D-line coach?
Anything is possible.
Any team.
All right.
Yeah, anything is possible. I wouldn't say that was likely. I wouldn't say that's likely, but anything is possible.
Ivan asks again, how many future NFL guys are on the team heading into next year? I mean,
what about 3 or 4 at each position group?
No, for real though.
Honestly, though, I mean, like we were talking yesterday, like if Omarion has a big year, like he could be a first-round NFL draft pick this year.
Absolutely.
Or next year.
Absolutely. And I say that, I'm not joking. You know, your 2 guys fighting for quarterback have NFL in their future.
Mm-hmm.
2 or 3 of the offensive line that you know of have NFL in their future.
I think the top 3 cornerbacks.
Yeah, top 3 cornerbacks and top 4 receivers have NFL in their future.
Yeah.
I would say the only gap as far as NFL future goes, and this is unknown, this could change, would be tight end and linebacker right now. Everybody else has an NFL player in the room.
Definitely.
Absolutely. I mean, to put a number on it, I don't know, 20 or some. Like, I mean, you count the next 3-4 drafts when all these guys actually make it through. Like, I mean, you mentioned Julian and, you know, the quarterbacks, but London Merritt, Alex McPherson, these guys coming in who are expecting to make an impact as freshmen. Like,
facts.
They're not stopping at Colorado. They're going on after, too. SN Services asks, oh, sorry, go ahead, Unc.
I was going to tell y'all another Jordan Seaton story.
Yeah.
And it's actually the way he and I greet each other. When we're walking toward each other in the hall, we look down and then we look up and we shake hands. There was just one moment in practice when Coach Prime does call out. Like he'll say Jake down, and whoever's replacing Jake has to be listening and run out on the field.
Right.
And so as we know, Seaton wears 77, so he's out on the field, and Coach Prime says 77 down, and Jordan goes. And it was like I was the only person in practice saw it. So when he came off, I said, dude, did you just look down at your damn number? He said, Coach, I was so tired I couldn't remember what it was. So I had to...
Oh, dude. That's great.
That's hilarious. What a guy.
It's those moments that like remind you that Jordan's still like 19 years old.
Yes.
He's still a kid.
He's a big kid, man.
Yes. SN Services is asking early odds for Buffs to get to the CFP. I've got natty odds. I don't know. I think I looked up the wrong thing actually, but I guess the shortest one is plus 11 or plus 10,000. So that's the shortest odds right now to win the national title. You could, use deductive reasoning to get to the CFP odds from there, probably around plus 5,000 if I had to guess.
Yeah, that sounds right.
All right, a few more super chats, and then we're going to get out of here. Tom says, Unc, they punted to you today regarding best barbecue joint in Fort Worth. We are here through Monday. So Tom's out there in Fort Worth. He was asking us if we could give Coach Prime's recommendation for best barbecue out there. But can you tell us, or maybe your favorite best barbecue out there in Texas for Tom?
Man, I really can't. I do love that spot, but it's nowhere near Fort Worth. It's in Canton, and Coach Prime's little small town there. Here's the thing about Fort Worth, aka Funky Town. Like the airport may say DFW, but like Fort Worth ain't really near Dallas. And so you ask me to name a barbecue place in Fort Worth, you might as well be asking me to name one in Austin. Like it's a long drive. So Tom, I wish I could help, bro, but I don't know a barbecue place in Fort Worth because I don't make it out that far unless we're whooping up on TCU.
Tom, get back to us when we go back to TCU. We are signing off on Fast. If you're watching us on Samsung or all the other Fast options, head on over to TheDNVR.com. We're going to wrap up the show over there. All right, next we've got Kev.
Hey, real quickly before we go into the next question, Unc, we when we had Sapp on last week, he dropped a gem on us that I had never heard before, and I'm curious if you had or have dabbled in it. Crab boil, but instead of regular potatoes, sweet potatoes.
Yeah,
when he said that, it never changed my life, and I haven't even had it yet.
He and I are about food, fun, and football. I haven't tried that yet either, but
Whew.
If 99 stands behind it, I'm gonna stand with him because he knows food.
Stand right
Now,
next to
he
him.
will take some risks that I don't take.
You're right.
Because he'll go out there and catch a damn python with his hands. So I don't know if you stuck around to the end of Wednesdays with Warren. In about the last 2 or 3 minutes, I had to tell him, I'm not letting you get out of here without us highlighting your shirt. Did you happen to see the shirt he had on? His shirts.
I saw
I'm
the
not
top
a
of it was I'm not a gynecologist, but I couldn't read the bottom. I couldn't read the bottom.
But I'll take a look.
Boy.
Hey, what? He's so wild for wearing that on the show.
Yeah.
No, I saw because I watched probably like the first 20 minutes of it, and the whole time I'm like, I can only see the top half, and I'm like, gee, I know the bottom half of that shirt says something wild as hell.
I had to tell, but you got to show the shirt. So he stood up and it said, "I'm not a gynecologist, but I will take a look."
Oh my god!
So consider the source for your food advice.
Yeah. That's
a
hilarious, dog.
East Coast Kev. Glad to see Uncle Neely and DNVR together again. When will Coach Faulk officially be on campus?
Hey, appreciate that love, East Coast Kev. Let me tell you something, East Coast, and everybody out there listening. This partnership ain't going nowhere. Like it's all year long. You know, we have little breaks now and then for family time and that kind of thing. But the DNVR pregame show will be back loaded, hot and heavy. As to that question, I would liken it to, remember last year when it was December, January, and we said Warren Sapp was coming, and every week the chat was like, he ain't coming yet.
Right.
And he made an appearance in March.
Yeah.
A lot of these coaches, because there is literally no football coaching taking place right now,
Right.
it is still in the hands of strength and conditioning, and we can't start coaching football until March. There'll be a player-led practice or two in February per NCAA rules, but that's still without the coaches. You know, the guys like Faulk are getting their other lives in order before it's time to commit for football for 9 weeks of spring ball and then coming back in the summer. So the short answer to that is somewhere between Valentine's Day and March 11th, you're absolutely going to see Marshall Faulk on campus and moving into that running back office.
Can't wait. I'm sure, I mean, he'll be one of the first guys on the podium when he gets there, I'm sure. So we'll hear from him soon.
Absolutely. You know, because you got media day coming up. So he'll probably, you know, if not here full-time, be here by then. And then just keep in mind that between those player-led practices in February and the first practice or team meeting, which I guess will be the 10th of March, everybody's back by then, including potential new hires. I'll leave that as right there.
All right. Rev BJ Nelson says, Coach Prime, coaching staff, and players are going to have the Big 12 like it says in Daniel 5:6. And his knees smote together, meaning they have knees knocking, LOL. Blank flatline dead laughing with a toe tag. Appreciate you, Rev. Preaching.
Yeah, hey, Rev BJ, appreciate that love, brother. Now, I agree with you. I think when this staff officially takes shape and the roles are identified and people see who the names are going into spring ball, and as Coach Prime said at the first staff meeting for the year in January when we were there, spring ball is going to be an evaluation for everybody. You know, just because you're sitting around this table in March doesn't mean you're going to be sitting around this table in August, because we're going to find the best position for you for where you fit best at. And he absolutely affirmed that Pat Shermer was in charge of the offense and Rob Livingston was in charge in the defense. And if you're on their staff, you're on their staff. And we're going to look at what needs to change, not just for the players during spring ball, but for the staff. So I totally anticipate some more staff changes or announcements before spring ball commences. And I would say to you guys that even when you get throughout the summer, someone's role may change here or there, because Coach Prime is not just about winning. He's about dominance, and he's going to make sure he's got the right people in the right places to give us the chance to dominate, not just win.
Love it, man. Last one here from Barry. He's taking a shot here, Unc. DeMarcus Ware, D-line coach? Hey, I look.
The Cowboys in him would love that.
I would love that.
Yeah, he'd love that.
I would love that. I would love that. I'll tell you this, guys. You know, again, I think that when you look at Coach Prime and who he knows, and you look at a Rob Livingston and who he knows, and you look at a Sapp and who he knows, and you play like some tic-tac-toe, it's going to be somebody credible, somebody that's going to have a major impact that can coach and connect. And again, what I love about this process this time around, this is not just a Coach Prime process, but the DC is involved in it. Sapp has his ear to the ground. So this is going to be someone that they believe in, that can not only coach the X's and O's, but knows how to get guys to the next level and knows how to connect, with guys in that coaching process. So it's whether you have heard of the person or not. I don't know how much some individual may follow football, but it's a damn good hire.
Hell yeah. Unc, this was awesome, man. Great catching up with you. Appreciate the insight as always. Let's do it again next week.
I'll be around, brothers. Like I told East Coast Kev, man. Whenever y'all need me, we ain't got to wait to spring ball to start this thing back up, because we know we're gonna do it regularly during the spring. There's now spring ball, and of course we're doing it all season long. But whenever y'all need me in February, just hit me up, and I'll be there.
Yes, sir. We definitely will. We're gonna have those. We're gonna have those fire takeaway videos coming from spring practice soon enough too. So stay tuned. We will be back very, very soon. Appreciate you, Unc. We'll talk soon. We'll have you back next week with we'll get the quad pod back together.
Quad pod.
Love Unc.
See y'all tomorrow. Let's go Buffs.
Let's go Buffs.
We all silly like the mayor.